with our meeting of economic growth and development. First of all, just maybe an observation regarding the weekend in Glens Falls. I mean, from an economic perspective, I went to the game Saturday. I mean, it was a packed house. It couldn't have been more exciting for the city of Glens Falls. So I think in terms of just indirect economics, good for the city, good for the area, great for the Civic Center. I mean, I have never seen the city so crowded, restaurants so packed, people spending money, people waiting in line, rows and rows of humanity waiting in line to get into the Civic Center. So again, just as an observation, it was a very, very exciting day, Saturday, and this is a team that was destined for success. Okay, they played probably a superior team on Saturday and came away with a win. So good for the city, good for the area, and congratulations, obviously, to the Indians. So that being said, Ed, I think...
Okay, we're ready to go, and of course Peter was a star on the first SUNY Adirondack basketball team way back, correct?
Well, that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's okay. Yeah, we'll go with that.
He did play for the...
I like the word star. That's good.
He played for the team. And your reference to humanity, I just keep thinking of the reference that the announcer was making on the Hindenburg when that exploded. So I'm not sure that... If you listen to the tape when the Hindenburg was exploding, the radio announcer, they were covering the live coverage of that Hindenburg landing in New Jersey, and he was right there when it blew up. And so he was saying the massive humanity in there. So I was referencing that, Peter, so I didn't mean to, but that was coming back. We had an opportunity to have and hear Lieutenant Governor continue to take the governor's position relative to the unfairness with some portions of the Tax Reform Act of 2 years ago, and indicating that the state is going to, continue to advocate for the change in the deductibility issue with limitation of $10,000, as well as she did get into the infrastructure as well on the particular issue. And it's very important that we are open and receptive to state officials when they come in, so that they get greater more knowledge one-on-one in the area. Claudia was there, and Doug were present at the meeting last week, so we thank you for your participation on that. Secondly, earlier this month we had a roundtable at the Crandall Library dealing with affordable housing. Representatives, we had 9 municipalities from Warren County that were present, along with Wayne and Patricia from the Planning Department, and Darren Scott, a representative from the New York State Home Community Renewal, was there as well. And I think that we're on a good path of undertaking some studies. Wayne, we've been working closely with Wayne in the Planning Department on developing some strategies on this, and I'm going to defer to Wayne in his presentation relative to that. But EDC, as we indicated last year, is committing dollars to assist on this study that we really need to do as the first step toward encouraging developers to look at potential affordable workforce housing in the area. So again, I'm not going to steal any more of Wayne's thunder, although he does that to me all the time. Also, I had a chance to join Claudia and Matt Simpson and others from the area for the Association of Counties, which joined up with the National Association, if you will, of Counties, which coincidentally the executive director is Matt Chase, formerly of Glens Falls and Hudson Falls, has been directing that effort for the past 10, 12 years. And of course, from the state level, Steve Aquario was down there. We also had Mo Wright from Hadley, from our immediate area, that indicated some important messages at the level from New York State as well as the county, with meetings with Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Stefanik. Do you want to say anything else on that, Claudia, or on your trip?
I think Matt and I covered a lot in our full board
Okay.
meeting report.
Great, all right,
Okay.
good.
Just hope they follow through and,
Right.
with funding and, the information gets collected correctly.
Well, that's the first time,
Presented to
yeah,
FCC.
that's the first time, and I think your organization really hammered that point to include in infrastructure, besides broadband, cell. And this is the first time that the federal government, as well as New York State and the governor, are recognizing that there are still pockets remaining of cell coverage and the lack thereof. And so I think that was a good major point that was being stressed by Claudia and Matt and Mo Wright. Everybody down there just hammered that point, Senator Schumer and Stefanik as well, on that particular area. Also, we'll be working with Wayne on this competition for border monies, which has broadened. We briefly talked upon that with actually Congresswoman Stefanik on the commission. I've had some conversation as well, and I think the big thing there is you're limited to 2 applications really from the county. So we want to join forces here and put together 2 strong applications and avoid any competitiveness of multiple applications going in. Is not helpful to the county for that to happen. Also, the opportunity...
Supervisor Bramer?
Sorry. What projects are we looking at? Thinking through that
Projects we're
for me.
looking at is potentially some additional work on cell as one potential area, and I think that it might be a great idea to consider taking the proposal and policy of the chair of your board, Ron, talking about setting up a separate fund for infrastructure and seeing if we can leverage that money along with the border commission money, and calling it infrastructure. And under their infrastructure, that's such a broad area that could cover conceivably seed money for engineering studies, for bridges, roads, and I know you just added some more money into that particular area. Also for cover over into that area, water and sewer. Studies can also be in an area. So that would be one area that I would suggest that the board carefully look at. But I was thinking immediately when I saw that of what the chair is looking to try to do is create this infrastructure to give a little seed money, a little bit of a push for some of the much-needed infrastructure projects besides roads and bridges, in our areas, water and sewer needs as well. But obviously, it can be any 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very broad definition of what can be utilized. There's also, some communities, Claudia, have done and utilized money for recreation for some seed money.
I think when we were talking with Representative Stefanik, didn't she mention this program as having been opened up to us?
Yes.
And she was telling us that in response to our request for assistance with cell phone coverage.
Right, yes.
So I'm glad to hear that that's something
It
we'll be
is
pursuing.
covered. This border commission has been around for a number of years, and I always was struck by the number of counties outside Clinton County and those along the border that were eligible for this funds. And finally, Warren and Washington County have been
We're in,
are
yeah.
now in to
Yeah.
do that. But it's a very broad category that can be, I think, of help, through the county and the county planning department to make the recommendations for that. Besides, the city of western part of the city of Glens Falls to the city line is in the opportunity zone, and I've also mentioned with North Creek. So one of the things that is now developing is working with the Center for Economic Growth in some marketing for the region. As you can see, right within our region, there's a number of other opportunity zones, so there's competition per se, but when you start breaking the things down, obviously North Creek has a great advantage of its location and the great ski facilities that are located in the town of Johnsburg, and one of the priorities from Johnsburg has been their lodging, hospitality, as well as affordable housing in the area. So this opportunity zone will kind of be focused in those particular areas. which is different in Glens Falls. More of the focus is going to be on some redevelopment in the Broad Warren Street, the Broad Street area, looking at some mixed-use development in those areas. So there's different uses. And again, what occurs with the job opportunity zone is investment as an opportunity to defer, as well as to basically eliminate any capital gain when your investment, when you decide to sell, if you remain in within 10 years. The regulations continue to come out. The last ones were out last fall. It's a little bit slow moving now because there's still some uncertainty and questions. And this is not a grant. It's not. It does not require approval from the towns or the county or the state. It's strictly a tax situation where you would be applying directly with the Department of Taxation, Department of Treasury, on this particular issue, and they would be approving the particular project. But it's one other tool in the economic kit here that we can help in those two designated areas as well. And so you can see in terms of the regional approach and the zones, and this is so Center for Economic Growth has been working with us in developing some just bullets for them to incorporate in any mailings or economic inquiries that are being made to them, as well as to the Empire State Development, as well as to investment companies. The really key here is to be working with those investment firms as well as those banks that are heavily involved in the opportunity zone. Not every bank is involved in these type of tax credits as well in the area. One of the interesting
Supervisor Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Okay.
I can't read this. Is there a chance I can get your hand up so I can...
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. John, you want to pass
Sure.
this on? Yeah. This was one of the things that was interesting in reviewing is the trend of our commuters. And if you look at the Albany area, Albany and Warren County have the least number of people working outside the county of their residence. So that means that the people are finding jobs within Warren County, as well as in Albany. Obviously, Albany with the university system and the state government, that's obvious. Here, it runs into a number of our workers are residing here as well as working here. And if you go around the area and see Rensselaer County, 53% of the people migrate out of Rensselaer County. Washington County, 47% of the people migrate out. Next month we'll show you the chart as to where they go through this data that's being accumulated here in the area as some trends to continue in this area. Yes.
Supervisor Simpson?
Does the survey go into detail to, deeper to find out why? Sometimes I've heard it numerous times. There's a lot of people that went to college for a certain degree and they're staying here at home until they find something. They're not in their field of expertise, but they're employed. There seems to be, and I hear it more and more that they don't have the. I mean, if there was a job available in Albany, they would be commuting to Albany in their field of study. I just wondered if there was any detail on that.
Well, there are some details, but it's interesting to say that Saratoga County, proclaims low employment, which is true, but nearly 50% of their people in Saratoga migrate out to other communities outside of Saratoga County. It's just a little snapshot that we'll be following up next month as to where those travelers are going, even from Warren County and Washington County, for this in the particular area. I'm going to be passing this out if anybody wants. John, why don't you just pass?
Yeah, no, I did.
Oh, you got it. Okay. And this again is a breakdown just to show these are non-agriculture employment data, but again it shows the various units that are involved in our employment, going from trade, transportation, utilities. Each group sometimes puts this out. This is from the Department of Labor, and they mix and match different activities. As trade, transportation, and utilities, that's a pretty broad sector at 17%. manufacturing at 11%, then they've taken out natural resources and mining, which in some data is reported as manufacturing, as another 5%. Government is at a 20% level. And again, leisure and hospitality comes in at 13%, but sometimes the other services is defined broad enough so that can be matched up into leisure and hospitality, because generally we've said from an employment point of view, the tourism hospitality area in Warren County generally is around 20% minimally in the area. Education and health services is 16%, and just to kind of give a data that was as of February of this past year. We're continuing to try to market.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah.
What does the MSA encompass?
MSA encompasses Warren, Washington, and the town of Monroe.
Okay.
That is the area that is looked upon, and then the Department of Labor breaks this down in a different package. But the MSA, with a lot of the community service data that comes out in other organizations, that's what is made up of Warren, Washington, and northern Saratoga County, meaning the town of Monroe.
Okay.
In here, we try to.
Supervisor, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you elaborate again on what transportation utilities?
Well, it's transport.
Quite a big chunk.
Yeah, that is, and again, the Department of Labor, they're doing this consistently, and some might argue, transportation, of course, is any transportation. We have a lot of, basically freight, cargo handling by the various companies in the area. Utilities, that involves National Grid. It involves your telecommunication areas. Some, again, break it down in a different area, in those that are involved in just trade.
Consider it wholesale. Retail and wholesale.
So,
Oh, okay, but no professional business.
yeah, so,
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman. Ed, thank you for this. I'm just curious, can you provide something like this chart or some kind of comparison for some of the other neighboring
Yeah.
or our competing MSAs, so we get a sense
Oh, sure.
of what their mixes are and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Yeah.
I'm really kind of surprised that government's number
Yeah.
one on the list. But
That doesn't surprise me.
well, when you think about the number of school systems that we have in...
Oh, that includes education then?
Includes education,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. From that area. Education services, that's where, again, we'll get a better definition, because we take in issue at times with the definition of these charts, but it's standard, so we're not, our issues on that is not going to change, but we'll give a better definition, and what we'll do is compare that to the MSA a little bit here. I think that chart we've seen here today is a little bit short, in my opinion, on the hospitality area, as I mentioned, in the tourism area. Certainly we can make a comparison to other areas. I think one of the areas you'll see is a little bit larger blip in some areas for manufacturing, but much less in the tourism area. We tend, of the North Country tourism from Warren County north, we are the largest component of tourism, more than Essex County, more than Clinton County in this particular area, through the Empire State Development studies that were done in that area. So what we try to do is promote various properties through our website and others when inquiries. That is the former Broad Street school that is for sale, as well as where Merrill McGee is up for sale in Warrensburg. So we are doing some efforts to promote that in Warrensburg area. So one of the things that I wanted to go over here is some of our highlight goals for this year that is underway. One, and these are not necessarily from the number one priority down. They are very much, many of these would be placed at the same level of priority, is to seek funding for the deferred option or options from a pathway corridor study that would be looking at any monies from the federal government, from the state government, and any also local monies. Some people are optimistic at the federal level, and Senator Schumer kind of alluded to that in his meeting, on infrastructure. At one point, everyone thought that there was going to be agreement between Senator Schumer and President Trump on infrastructure, and it came fairly close, and then things kind of went their separate ways for a variety of reasons. And so I think that we need to be looking at that, just not for the Pathway Corridor, but that information will reveal whether or not other potential programs within Warren County can take advantage of that aspects out of the Pathway Corridor, looking at that. What we're trying to also do is to identify and grow the private sector participation in EDC by 15% to increase our group, like I said, by the 15%. We're in the process of developing the opportunity zone strategies for North Creek and the town of Johnsburg and the western portion of the city. Again, what we want to try to do is to be assisting in any way we can for broadband, cell coverage, to advocate and project participation in this particular area. I think that there is, as I said, through the efforts of many of your board members here, great potential with cell coverage. What we have to really look at is that currently, right now, many of the FCC programs and the State of New York programs, to a certain extent, eliminate Warren County because we do not match their low income data. And so we have to ensure, working with Senator Schumer and Gillibrand and Stefanik, that they are aware, and when they do come out with these income levels, that we've got to make sure that Warren County is going to be eligible. Because currently, right now, in some of the USDA programs through broadband, we are not eligible. They have to take the whole county, and so obviously what happens, you have your lower income in the northern part of Warren County, but that is offset by Supervisor Strahl's constituency in Queensbury, and somewhat to a certain extent in Glens Falls. So as a balance, as a blend of that, it's very difficult. There's no way we could get funded currently by USDA on the broadband program. So if they merely increase the money and just slap on and say cell coverage, that's not going to do it for us. We've got to work on that. We've made everybody aware of that in Washington to work on that funding level.
At the state level, the governor announced he's going to have a task force.
Yes, right.
So that's going to help. Hopefully we can
Absolutely, yes.
intertwine that
Yep.
with the federal effort and get this discussion going
Right.
so that we can...
And also make compatible not only the income levels, but also the ability to leverage federal money to the state, and for the state to leverage federal money. Many of the programs you can't use government monies to match government monies. In other programs you can. So those are the kind of things that the concept is great. This was a first major step by the Governor Cuomo and the federal government in moving forward with cell, because under the round of monies that have been announced to date on broadband, cells were not permitted on that. They just assumed, and they told me directly, you've got cell coverage up there. So we know that that's not true and accurate. And everybody, Mo brought over some EPA people and demonstrated to them when they got there. When we had HUD, when we went to Chester, they could not download anything on their cell back then for the HUD program they're doing there. So, continuing on that we are looking and can continue to advocate for additional funds, starting with the state for the Lake George wastewater facility here. Maybe he should, just when he throws out his first pitch in Boston, he should ask John Henry, the owner of Fenway Park and the Boston Red Sox, for some money for the efforts over there. But I think that Mayor Blaze has made a great presentation to the state officials and to a couple of budget committees relative to this important issue. And again, looking for money perhaps spread over a couple of years of $6 to $8 million from the state, and then lend itself to see if there's any potential of any local share that would be available for that. Again, spread out over a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, that might be helpful to get them across. We know that Mayor Blaze has talked about 900 residents being strapped with, 20. The project now is $22 million. So I think that is important for all of us to be on the same page and work together on that. We are also identifying currently right now in round 9 already from the CFA 7 to 10 projects that would include municipal as well as private sectors going forward, or continuation of communities that have prior grants that are looking for successor money that have been underway. And the county has been very successful in the past with the help of Wayne in planning to follow up on a grant that a community may have received, yet they need more money, or it's a phase 2 or phase 3 of projects to do that particular area. Also, what we want to do is, again, a major priority is assist in the affordable workforce senior citizen area, particularly in the north part of Warren County. John has completed his study in Queensbury and is moving forward. Some developers, one developer from my knowledge, and I think John, if somebody else looked at the town yet? Are you talking?
Just one.
Okay. So, and in the city of Glens Falls is underway with a 72 unit of affordable housing.
Right.
So we want to focus that. And you have to have these feasibility market studies in order to apply for grants from the state of New York. So this is a very key step to go forward to it. What we're looking to do is to have at least 1 to 2 golds at Tech Metals for industry to come that has grown out of a current location, or to expand. One of the things, John, I'm going to have you speak just for a moment. One of the things that is important, that continues to be an issue, is the participation with workforce, getting everybody together on the same page of what we need to do. Particular elements really need now jobs in particular trade areas. Welders, as an example. Elizabeth Miller from Miller Mechanical had to go to Pennsylvania to bring some welders up. And so this is something that through the Workforce Development Board we need to be doing. John?
And there's been a bit of a reconstitution of what is now known as the Workforce Development Board. It was formerly known as the Workforce Investment Board, WIB. Now the acronym is the WDB, which it basically stems from the reauthorization of the WIOA, which is federal funding. Doug Levins is now the executive director. That was in charge of that board. He's going to probably approach the board at some point in time, maybe make a presentation. I suggest that he do that, so they get some familiarity with the work of the board. A lot of what's going on now is basically, for a long time, the emphasis was on the job seekers, which it still is, because there's the oversight role that the board plays with the centers, the job centers. But there's also now an additional emphasis on business services, meaning the businesses that are out here all have needs, as I just alluded to, and addressing those and doing a more direct outreach to the business side as opposed to the jobless side, because the job numbers are down. So that's the long and the short of it. But I think that you'll be hearing from the Workforce Development Board pretty shortly for more comprehensive overview of it.
Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along this line, as far as job training and availability of trained personnel, I think I spoke to you about it. We have the top-notch school, the plumbers and pipe fitters union school down on the southern part of Queensbury, Falls. We have BOCES, which trains the kids at a high school level, but perhaps we could look as a region of expanding those training programs for adults. Perhaps expanding the campus where plumbers and pipe fitters have their school. Make that a central location. When you're going to this region, you're going to get training in electrical and welding. Why should we have to go to Pennsylvania? Well, let's train them here. Make us a location. People are going to come here to get their training. And then, of course, the industries are going to get that first shot at getting those training.
Yes, the plumbers and steam fitters currently have, first of all, from their training point, they currently have about 70 apprentices in the program. And also that is the site that our EPA grants for job training at that site. And they basically are aware they are in the process of creating a program to outreach to others, including SUNY Adirondack. Dr. Duffy has been down to the site to take a look at the site. And there's no question that we need to do more. We just have to, we have a lot of resources out there. It's like in the field of social services, is that you have so many different agencies, and they collaboratively now have been meeting on a number of issues, and we have to be doing the same thing. We talked as another example where there is a scarcity of workers is in the marine industry of repairing boats and the motors and so forth, and all the electrical components in there. And I talked to BOCES about that, of creating a program and work with the boating association, in this area to do that. And as I said, the welders, these are programs that you have to plan to have a quick response to, because if we sit down and try to plan and try to get funding for it, by that time there may not be a need in that particular area for the welders. So we have to be able to instantly respond to this, and also there's a need for the industries to be better in communicating what their needs are in particular. So it really is a consortium that needs to be an industry to be aware of that, to be able to bring BOCES, SUNY Adirondack. They're doing a number of wonderful things up there in the job area. But they're more toward a goal orientation that's a couple of years away. We need these programs, maybe it's a 5-week course or a 10-week course in the
Ben, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Ben.
I've recently heard that there's a big shortage in CDL drivers, particularly from the standpoint of trash haulers. Have you heard that same
School bus
information?
drivers.
School bus, it goes across the board. Again, these things go in cycles, and you're basically having a lot of the CDL truck drivers, for example, retiring. Others are going into the different occupations in the school bus. And again, part of that is the hours as well as the wages in some areas for the school bus drivers that combine. Our next job training course will include a component of CDL, but it's very limited. We'll probably have 25 to 30 to that's in and by itself another area that could be incorporated into this, and whether, again, sharing that could be held at BOCES where they have rooms where they were up at SUNY, or even over at 773 has got room for some.
Now, there is the job discovery next
Yes.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of those types of positions just don't tend to participate in that program. Hopefully, in the future, they will give it a shot.
Yeah, I think that the era of job discovery and people actually going out to these sites, I think alternatively is using the social media more and more to make aware of things, because the job fairs that, as an example, C.R. Bard had, turned out, and they sent out thousands to the Department of Labor inquiries, and they had about, I think, 20 people show up for the job fair, and out of that 20 people, only 4 or 5 were acceptable applicants, and they only hired one or two out of that. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just to continue what the point that Ben made, the CDL issue is a continuing issue. It's not just in the private sector, but across municipalities, school districts, Glens Falls Mass Transit. I mean, all of us are utilizing, going to the same pool, and it would be good to know, specifically, what we can do as a county to facilitate on this point. I mean, one would think that it's a job that has, in many cases, benefits as retirement, has if you're looking for public service employment. So I would say that it's something we should be really focused on going forward, because it really affects a lot of different parts of the public and private sectors. and maybe with the economy doing really well, it's just the public sector is having more difficult time competing for that. Those individuals, I don't know. But it would be good to know.
There's a lot of competition within those kind of things. The medical device firms here in town are competing with one another with bonus signings, vacations, etc., back and forth between C.R. Bard and Angio, as an example, in the area. Just kind of capping up the last two, the DRI, we continue to work on that. The Art District it will be launched this springtime, which consists of the eastern end of the city on Warren Street that connects into the downtown area, and that we will begin additional requirement site preparation and a comprehensive development plan for the properties at the Queensbury Business Park. And again, just picking up on Peter's point, with Joseph Gerard and the team has just had a great, wonderful season, and as Mr. Beatty, our resident basketball analyst here, pointed out, the last two games, it was really a team effort, and the other members of the team came through and assisted Joseph in getting to the finals on that. But it's an accomplishment that any team from upstate beats a team downstate at this level. The competition is just fierce for that. And so, again, last slide there, which I shouldn't have gone over so fast, but that's it, is the high school basketball tournament is coming back next year. And again, the economic impact regionally is significant.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ed, I appreciate all the efforts you have going on, and I do appreciate the goals that you put together for me. But I'm wondering if you could give me your top 3 goals. Something like, obtain $20 million for the Lake George wastewater treatment.
Michael, I don't
can
put down unrealistic goals in my accomplishments.
No, but there's always stretch goals, and it's part of my private sector, experience. It's that I always have to put in some.
But you see, we're in the public
goals.
sector, and when we say in its report in the paper that we want the $20 million, every other community, Skinny Atlas, it may be looking for $30 million for a wastewater treatment plant. So we definitely are seeking and have been working with Mayor Blaze and the Fund for Lake George to seek, I had put in a request to the state on behalf of the village, $6 to $8 million. And as an example, that's our goal.
I understand that. I was being facetious about the 20 million, because then we'd all be hearing and building the statute. But I'm looking for something.
Well, I think that one of the keys right off the bat is to move into the affordable workforce development area. This is critical from our perspective in the North Country. As an example, the nursing home in North Creek, 120 employees. They have very difficult time in keeping workers because of the lack of housing in that particular area. That's just not there. So they have a tremendous labor shortage that comes and goes in not only there, but other communities have joined in. Craig has participated in the first forum on that. So we're looking to do the first step that would include a study that would be funded by EDC, as well as Wayne will talk about his component in a moment, as one of the key areas, Michael, that we hope to do. Number 2, that we will continue to work with the various groups on broadband and cell coverage in our particular area. I would tie into that CFA of seeking 7 to 10 projects for the CFA, as well as increasing jobs in our particular area.
Do you already have the 7 to 10 projects for that funding?
No, we certainly do not.
Identified?
We are in the process of talking right now to municipalities as well as the private sector.
Did you have another question, Supervisor? No? Okay, you all done? Yep. Supervisor, or not supervisor, yes, Travis.
And you missed the last bullet point on the EC goals.
Yes, yep.
I think you did mention
I didn't
it.
hear the
You
rest.
missed it.
No, I did mention that.
So
So is that the stone quarry?
Yes, that is, the Queensbury Business Park, yeah.
And what is it that needs to be done there?
What needs to be done, we have to do a more comprehensive, as I put in here, a updated marketing plan for the development of that, talking to some realtors locally as well as in Albany, which we're now doing in promoting the development of that facility, number one.
So do we have anything in mind that, what we're trying to get in there?
We have in mind, obviously, some type of manufacturing would be at the top of the list. I think, secondly, we would be looking for, and I have been working with the airport manager in terms of, there's a greater inquiry that are being made as to the surrounding area out there, including the Warren Washington Industrial Park, to see how we can do things in cooperative nature instead of competing within each other. And we both know that we're somewhat bound by the fair market value of those properties and appraisals. We've gone out and had an appraisal done last year on our properties, so we have to kind of stay within that ballpark area. But I think manufacturing we've won. I think that takes in a broad compass in an area. We have turned down requests in the past for solar, which we don't think is an appropriate use of that property. Also, some people have looked upon that for storage, which again we don't think is appropriate. Somewhere in the area that is good. Also, there was an inquiry made in the past as to move a fire district's building into that area as well, which we felt that is a decision that should be made by the town in cooperation with the fire district when they wanted to move the South Queensbury into our park area there. That's something that I think is unique. On one hand, you'd like to have the fire department right there in your market area, but I think their location was just around the corner, and I think it's intended to be around the corner, so I don't see that we should be utilizing that land for particular use on that. Okay.
Thank you. Greg?
Thank you. Back to workforce development, Mr. Chairman. This Friday at North Warren Central School, the Chamber of Commerce and YMCA Adirondack Outreach Center is hosting a job fair. And Chris Hunsinger and his department will be up there as well. And this is also to be able to try to bring together workforce development, matching employees with employers.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, just quickly, your thoughts on an industrial shell building program. I know it's a big investment of capital to have buildings ready to go, but on the other hand, it shortens the timeline, it shortens the permitting processes and review processes. Just quickly.
We looked at that several years ago, particularly in the lower Hudson Valley. The IDAs did that and bought a land and developed some shell buildings or platforms, and many of them still stand vacant today. The difficulty is that many of the users of a new building want to have specifications of docks here, the height of the ceiling, and so forth. So what we are in the process of working with area banks as well as some area developers that can have the financial capabilities on a moment's notice to be able to proceed to build based on a request from ESD. We get requests from ESD and other economic development agencies in the region from Arnie Will and Michael Everly, and saying this customer is looking for a new building for warehousing, looking for a new 10, 12, 14, 16,000 square foot building. It may need water, municipal water and sewer, et cetera, et cetera. And right now, we are short of good, adequate warehouse space in the area. The sole building that we have is the former building of our Native Textile, right off of Exit 18 in the town of Queensbury. That's been bought by a group of investors last year. Currently, AngioDynamics has some space in there, about 20,000 space out of about 120. And there's soon to be another group that is going in there to take space, more manufacturing in that area. So it's a good building. The building is 20 years old, but they did good maintenance on it. Now that the sewer is there, it's sparkling more interest to be into that building. So we're trying to devise a quick response time, Ron, rather than trying to have the IDA go out and invest. And with the cost of new construction, we've also looked at the potential of can we assist in renovating some of our older buildings, but we don't have the size for that.
Supervisor Stroud.
Well, before you leave, Ed, I just want to announce that following the championship game, congratulations to Glens Falls basketball players, there was another champion recognized following the game, and that event was held at Queensbury and hosted by St. Mary's. And the recognition for lifetime achievement and contributions to the community was given to our Ed Bartholomew. So,
Thank you, John.
yeah.
Congratulations, Ed.
Very, very accommodating. You know, when I got the letter, I said to the group, one, did they know that I played for Glens Falls, and we tried our best to beat the heck out of the Cary Blues every time. Secondly, I am a Methodist. Third, I said that I'm a Republican, and the East End is pretty Democratic. So those were the points, but nonetheless, it was a great evening, and I appreciate the recognition from St. Mary's.
Congratulations, Ed. Well deserved, to say the least. Just as maybe an observation, okay, you mentioned a project on Broad Street, okay, I attended a meeting on the mental health residential Cooper Street project last week, okay, and I'd like to make one point in terms of what maybe a discussion we can possibly have in the future, maybe a letter to our legislators, and that is there's distinctly a humane need for these kind of projects. We have to take care of human beings that have difficulties, therefore, but for the grace of God, go you or I. The difficulty is that when projects like this come forward, Ed, and ask for property tax relief, okay, I would suggest that in the state of New York, we have reached a tipping point where these projects, from their inception, from the funding that starts in Albany, should be fully funded, okay? But so we're faced with a situation where we have a high percentage of properties in the city that are tax exempt, okay? And again, I think we've reached the tipping point. We want to be sensitive, we want to be loving, we want to be compassionate, but I think the model today, in my opinion, is flawed, okay? The state legislature should fund property taxes from day one. So we could talk about this for the next 5 years, and that's not my point in bringing it up, but maybe in the future, Ed, we could maybe bring this up as a topic in future meetings.
Sure, the difficulty is the legislature has been constantly, there's been legislation put in for a number of years when I worked in Albany. One is that would have required prior advance notice information meeting as to a potential location before they submitted it to the state for an application. Number two is that not only to have funds on the capital side, you can build, the Open Door can get all kinds of money if they would comply with non-discrimination. They opt not to do that. But you could build a shelter tomorrow anywhere in New York State, and basically close to 90 to 100%. It's on the operating side of the shelters. It's on the operating side of this facility. This facility is being proposed for Cooper Street, has a commitment of 5 years from the state of New York for operating. Beyond that, there's no commitment. In the area of affordable housing, new development, the affordable housing project in Glens Falls, there's a commitment by the state for 30 years of operating funds. they have a commitment to be there for 50 years for affordable housing, so they have to demonstrate the financial capabilities of remaining there. So I think we can work on that. We certainly would need to call out to Senator Little and Dan Steck to assist us in trying to get this. Many years ago, they did have a pilot program for youth shelters and other programs for a brief period of time that pilots were being paid, not at necessarily the rate. At least this organization has made an offer to do some kind of pilot payment, certainly not at the level of what the city would like. And again, you'd like to have seen, before they locate in Glens Falls, they need to be on a bus line. They need to have other accommodations nearby so that they can get to those services. So that's what happens. Glens Falls, Saratoga, Albany, all of your cities have this issue that have a higher rate of owned property by not-for-profits. Our up-county friends have the issue of the state of New York owning a good portion of your communities, and again, they're not getting really fully compensated for that ownership either.
Great.
So that's why I agree we can do something.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. I think the siting and operation of these facilities is something we should definitely bring back to the committee and look at. I mean, it's great that we have facilities
We
in
have no
Glens Falls
authority
where
to
people
cite.
can walk,
Claudia,
but
we have no authority to block out these projects, right?
that's fine, but one of the points I was going to make is that we cannot have every single one of these facilities in downtown Glens Falls. We need to make sure that Glens Falls can still be vibrant. Another point that I want to make is that we have a facility on Crandall Street, and it's going to close because they have a $68,000 gap in their operating budget, and they were contracted with New York State, and New York State is shutting them out from that funding. So that's something that I think
Senator Little,
we need to
Senator Little has had a meeting last week on that particular
I was
issue.
there.
It's Father Young's operations, and they're shutting down because of some problems that Father Young had, not himself, but in the company of a couple of people that embezzled some money. They're operating very well. Father Young's service has been great for our area and region. But you're right, the difficulty is to find other locations that are on the bus line that have all these amenities that are required. And if not, then there needs to be, if they do their due diligence and can't find it, then if they come into an area that is populated with not-for-profits, they should pay considerably more for it. So we're on the same page.
Thank you very much. I think it's been an interesting meeting, and we are going to get to you, Wayne. Okay, trust me. So we're now going to open the planning and community development portion of our meeting. Can I first get a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting? Supervisor Strauss, seconded by Supervisor Wild. All those in favor? Wayne, number 3, committee actions requested.
Yes, there's a couple actions that require committee approval, recommendation for the full board, and one that just requires committee approval. So the first one is to establish a capital fund for the Schroon Lake Invasive Species Program. Chris prepared the application last year. It was funded. The match is being provided by the local communities, and I'd ask the committee to take action on this and recommend to the full board.
Motion made by Supervisor Bramer, seconded by Supervisor Leggett. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. The second one is part and parcel to that is a memorandum of agreement for implementation of this with the project partners, requesting that the county prepare a memorandum of agreement that's in conformance with the state requirements, and Chris can certainly work with the county attorney's office on that language.
And we get a motion to Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Leggett. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And the next is just for committee action, since the funding's already in our budget, is just we'd like to fill the position of junior planner. We had actually a surprising number of applicants, and we have selected one that they'll be taking the test in June. So this is a probationary request to fill this position.
We have a motion, Supervisor Leggett, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. Can you remind me what this position is doing and what, I guess that's my primary question.
Okay, basically, there's the three planners in the office is myself, Chris, well, Patricia's part-time. This would be another planner that would work with the communities and work on county projects, identifying needs. One of the things that we're going to be working on that I want to talk, follow on to this, is the housing needs analysis market study that we want to work with Ed on. So basically, it's work with the local communities, work on county projects. One of the things that also we want to do today is have Sarah demo the capital improvement plan software. So again, it's filling in these types of positions. At some point in time, I am going to be exiting Stage Right. So we're trying to build capacity in the office and maintain that the office can still deliver our contractual obligations.
Supervisor
Can I just
Brandon.
follow on? Yeah, thanks. So this came up through the budget timeframe. There is a line for it, it's just been unfilled up until now, basically through
It's in our budget, yes.
And is there any other position that you proposed deleting or did delete during the budget time?
No. This has been a vacant position for a couple of years.
It's been vacant?
Yes.
You've had it in the budget?
Yes,
18 budget and the 19 budget.
correct. We just could not find anybody to fill it.
We've had staff go to part-time in the office. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wayne, you mentioned that you're getting ready to exit whatever stage left or right that is, but I'm sure that we'll try to keep you around for a while, as long as we can. But I'm wondering if you have a detailed succession plan yet that you can talk about, or maybe next month?
I would like to have a conversation with Ryan before I go any
That's
further
fair.
with that.
Fair. Thank
We've
you.
had some discussions, but, I think to properly do this, I need to have that discussion with Ryan.
Only good with that. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. I would really love to see somebody in the planning department work on sustainability issues.
This person comes in with an environmental studies degree, so...
That would be fantastic. I talked to Kevin Hages about that. They have a new engineer who has some sort of basis in environmental issues and regulatory compliance, but it would be great. We have nobody who's managing the county solid waste, our recycling. I mean, I know we don't have that, we don't have county programs that do that, but it would really be great to have someone who is working on a county-wide basis to help our municipalities and our residents make sure that we're doing the right thing, especially in this climate of uncertainty with respect to solid waste management. And what we can do to improve our energy efficiency and cost reduction through environmental measures.
10 years ago, we had that. And then the department was pretty well gutted during the budget issues.
Right. During the
And we were in
recession.
survivability mode. We had contracts to administer. We had to fulfill those contract terms. They became our priority. And even those, we were delayed on with a number of extensions required. So we are, bringing this person on board would bring us to the staff levels that we had about 12 years ago. So we can entertain going back into some of those programs that we've had to ignore, basically, because we just did not have the staffing.
Yeah, like Queensberry's just hired, you guys hired, well, you have your consultant, but, someone to help manage a county-wide green team. Just getting us a little bit more organized and on board with some of these, implementation of some environmental measures would be really,
If that becomes the direction of the board and the committee, we'll certainly pursue that. I don't disagree.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Wayne, I think filling the junior planner position is essential. I mean, this is someone that, after a number of years, coming in, someone with a number of years' experience would be eligible to take the AICP examination, and so that over time, what we could end up with is someone that we got to know, we got kids see that it works, but then at a certain point in time, would be eligible to become certified planner. And it would feed the whole department in that sense, so that something further up, if a person were to leave or whatever, you would have somebody that was ready, hopefully was ready to go, and then you could hire another junior planner as kind of a feeder type position, so that we don't lose all that corporate knowledge and all that momentum, all at once. And, so I think reestablishing what you're doing to reestablish some hierarchy within the planning office, I think, is pretty important.
Ben, did you?
Chairman.
One of the things I would like to bring up, and during the LDC meeting, I think we'll talk about it some more, is I want to thank Ed for arranging the affordable housing session at the library with Darren Scott from DHCR, and we had myself and Patricia had discussions with Darren afterwards, and actually beforehand and afterwards. The county has in the LDC a separate housing fund that has been funded through recapture of homeownership loans that we undertook many years ago under the state's home and affordable housing programs. Working with Ed, we'd like to cost share on doing a needs analysis market study for more of the up-county areas, but to also reference the draw and the availability of housing in Queensbury, Glens Falls. But I'd like to, we started to apply under the state's home and access to home programs and whatever, and we're flat out told without a market analysis, it's going nowhere. Don't even apply. Don't even waste our time or your time. So we took that to heart. I've had discussions with the Johnsburg supervisor and going to the North Creek Business Alliance meetings when the rafting guides say that their employees sleep in tents because they can't find housing because they're just on a seasonal basis. That kind of speaks to the need for workforce housing, affordable housing, and the other issue I think, especially up county, is senior housing. So gentrification of the housing market would allow for some of that, but it's all well and good to look at numbers and say, the numbers are there, but is there really a need? Is there a market? Is there a demand? On paper there may be. So, you need someone to look at that, and in the credence of the state grantor agencies, it needs to be third-party documentation. It can't be a self-assessment because the credibility of these third-party consultants is on the line versus there's a concern that locally derived information may be skewed towards each individual grant request. So, of course, we know that never happens. As part of, I just wanted to bring it up here, as part of the LDC, we'd look to cost share. This is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 to $20,000, depending on how it fleshes out. The initial approach is about a $7,000 analysis of the market, and then that would determine where to go from there. Again, using the funding that we have in the LDC already, I'd ask that the committee allow us to cost share with EDC on that study. So we'd run it through EDC because they're also cost sharing.
President Bramer.
Can we piggyback off of what Queensbury did? I was just asking Supervisor Straub, didn't their market analysis cover more than just Queensbury? It was my understanding it was kind of like
that would be part
a little
of it,
bit more
yeah.
just not like it didn't stop at the borders of the town, but to
Correct.
use that to
Correct.
spread
Well,
out. I mean, I don't want to pay another whatever they paid.
Well, there's with all deference to the town of Queensbury, there's two issues. Number one, they did not use a DHCR certified consultant, and the state has pre-selected 12 consultants that they will accept information from. So, and the second is, looking at the draft, it's very well done. To me, it seems to be more of a policy of how the town should pursue affordable housing concerns. There do not appear to be a lot of quantifiable numbers of need. And that's
Okay,
what
fair.
you need
Yeah.
to be able to put in the grant application that, expected to reside, or expected, the rent-ups would occur within 18 months or not. So it would certainly springboard off what Glens Falls has done, what Queensbury's done. All those would be part of the consideration. We did it in-house a 2008 housing study that we presented to the APA on the effects of APA zoning on up-county housing issues. They were not too happy, but they didn't amend some of their rules and regs as far as transfer of development rights and some other things. So, we'd look to use all the information out there. We'd ask somebody to look at and say, what does this really mean?
What's there now, and what do we think people need, or what is the actual need?
Yeah. So
So what happens after that is that report is then reviewed and it's on file with New York State HCR and Darren Scott's office. Darren Scott is the point person for developers that are looking. They will call him on a regular basis to see what communities have adopted new studies, what do you think? And through that contact, developers will be directed toward that study. Then they will take that and supplement that into their own economic development analysis. But they won't go back and do the original component unless it's done by through one of these procurement consultants through the state. So it's really the first step, and without that, as Wayne has indicated, we're not eligible. We don't meet the threshold to acquire and apply for these grants, nor is a developer, unless he does that privately without any tax credit or other subsidies from the state. He would not be eligible either. So we really need to go through this process.
Thank you. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if it's appropriate now or not, but I would support a motion, and I'd like to make a motion that we support this cost sharing and have two factors to it. The 7,000, is it 7,000? Excuse me. Is it 7,000 or 20,000 you're looking for, Wayne?
The initial approach, from what I've got an email here from one of the firms that are approved by DHCR, is, and the one that did the Broad Street market study, indicated that, it'd be somewhere in the 7,000 to collect all the data, take a look at it, then meet with us and see where it's going to go. That full-blown study could be upwards of 20. So we have, 20 some odd in, almost 30 in the housing fund in the LDC, that we could take part of that and match with EDC funds. So, we're looking at maybe 10, 12 apiece at the outside.
12,000 is part of the motion, right, to move forward and do the cost sharing.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yeah, it's more at the LDC of utilizing LDC funds, but if this committee wants to put
We have a
them
motion
forward-
on the floor by Supervisor Wild.
Well, we already have a motion on the floor for the junior plan.
I know.
Motion and second. Oh, we gotta vote on that first.
I know, I'm aware of that. I thought I would,
Oh, good point.
no, I'm
forgot
aware of that.
about that.
Why don't we go with Wild first and get Wild done, and then we'll come back to the planning position. Yes.
I will second his motion with the contingency that the EDC agree to share whatever portion we're talking about.
We have agreement.
You've already given that approval, your board?
We will
Or you-
have that approval, but
Okay,
I
well,
discussed
fine, let's
that
add
at
it,
last
yeah.
board meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And we're going to come back now to
Yeah, the other motion.
a request to fill the junior planner position, which did we have a motion on the floor?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Procedurally, we're confused here. So can we, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Carried.
Okay, at this point, we are a half hour late. Sarah has prepared a brief presentation on the capital improvement plan. She presented this at the DPW committee meeting, but there are a number of supervisors here who are not on that committee, so, and since it was through our office, we felt it should be part of this presentation
Sorry
of the
about
committee.
that,
This is a follow-on to the chairman's request to identify all the infrastructure and capital improvement needs within the county and with the associated municipalities. So, Sarah, if you want to kind of go through this. We'll give you an overview.
Okay, so again, this is an initiative that was begun by Chairman Conover and Supervisor Simpson to get an inventory of all of the capital project needs within the county. So both the county projects and the individual municipal projects. And again, a capital project is defined as something that's a significant cost that has a long useful life. So essentially we're not looking at maintenance type projects or vehicle purchases, but infrastructure type projects. We'll define these as we go further through this. But this is a survey that will be sent out to all of the participating entities, which is all of the municipalities, county, DPW, as well as the Pool Insuring Arena, EDC, SUNY Adirondack, Soil and Water. So you'll be receiving an email with a link to this survey from Ryan sometime over the course of the next week. Just wanted to briefly go through how to fill this out. Please select your municipality or your other entity. Give a brief description, brief title for your project, a brief description of what the project is. You can set a location on a map. Doesn't have to be exact, but just a general idea. And then select your project category. So the intent of this project is to capture information about essentially infrastructure projects, as well as parks, telecommunications, energy, and transportation projects. We're asking that people give their project a priority. Is this something that already has funding in place that is mandated to be completed in 2019 or 2020, or is this something that is a little bit farther down in that 6-year time frame? The intent of this is that it will be updated. It's a 6-year plan. It will be updated on a rolling basis, so it will constantly be current. Indicate whether this is a state or federally mandated project, and then what type of project it is, expansion, replacement, if it's something new. And then also indicate what the status of the project is. Is this just an identified need in your community, or have you already done some pre-design or design work, or are you in the construction phase? If you have funding sources identified, this is sort of an open-ended question, or open-ended text box here. I have some more fields behind the scenes to help break things down, but if you have a funding source for your project, you can indicate it here. Which fiscal year your project is scheduled for. If the project started, when it's estimated to complete, who's the lead. If you have any other documentation, if you have any design documents, cost estimates, studies, reports to the company, the project, you can upload them here. And the basic goal of this is to get a sense of need, both the county level and the municipalities, and then also serve as a planning tool for both the municipalities and the county. So the end result, after the data is all collected, I'll put it into this sort of dashboard type environment website that has a lot of filters so that we can look at all of the parks projects that we have needs for, the sewer projects. We can look at projects by phase. We can look at projects by fiscal year, by type of project, and get sort of an estimate of dollar figures for need for both the county projects and each of the individual municipal projects. So again, this will be an email coming from Ryan in the next week or so. We'd ask that all of the municipalities take some time to fill this out, and feel free to get in touch with either Chris or myself if you have any questions or any problems filling out the survey.
Mr. Chairman, did you have a question?
Yeah, we have a number of our projects that are up in steps or phases, right? Either from a timing perspective, a funding perspective, in other words, that we only know we're going to have a shot at so much money and improvements go to the millions of dollars. Would it be best to submit that each phase on a freestanding basis?
Yes.
Okay, and then if we needed to later, the program would allow us under your phasing to summarize that information.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
I
so
see.
please enter each project as a, and there's some instructions up at the top. So definitely if it's a multi-phase project, please update it as each phase as a separate project. After you've entered a project, you'll get this little message that says press here to submit again. So we ask that you go through the project again for each additional project. We did a beta collection with the town of Warrensburg. They had about 11 projects, and the county DPW is currently working on entering all of their many projects as well.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much.
What we see is something very similar in approach to the TIP, Transportation Plan, which has a 5-year build-out, and then it has post-TIP. There's projects that are identified, no funding yet, but somewhere down the road you'll get to it, and maybe in year 3 they pop up and it becomes something that then enters the program. This is important from the perspective that somebody can say this is a high priority or it's a low priority, but the low priority may move above a high priority because all of a sudden there's a specified, targeted funding opportunity, and where there wasn't before. It was a low priority because there was no funding, really. It's something that somebody wanted, but all of a sudden there's funding, and with having that identified, then we, as a county, as our department, as Ryan as a county administrator, who sees all kinds of correspondence and notifications come across his desk, can put 2 and 2 together. I will reference back to, I was at a DPW meeting for something a number of years ago, totally unrelated, and it was brought up, oh, we need sprinklers at Westmount. And I said, oh, well, there's a grant program for that. But that was a need that was out there that didn't have a funding source, and just by being aware of it, we were able to tag community development block grant dollars to $240,000 to put sprinklers in Westmount. So that's what one of the purposes and strengths of this is A, to look at a budgeting process, but B, to have the projects identified somewhere so that there's an awareness that if something pops up, oh yeah, I remember the town of Chester has a need for blah blah, and oh, here's a funding source.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. Wayne, I'm curious, are we going to put some kind of codification on all these individual projects that might give you an opportunity to understand what grants they could apply for? Or are all the grants, I don't know much about the grants, right, but I'm thinking it might be a housing, it might be something else, or some other pieces that you could put, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 or 10 tags on each project to say it might apply for this grant, or they might apply for another grant.
So I
Just to
have-
kind of keep the simplification of identifying what matches.
I have, I tried to keep this survey relatively simple. I didn't want to completely overwhelm everybody filling this out, especially if they're doing it multiple times for multiple projects. So I kept the funding field very open-ended, and people can put whatever they want to put it in that. But behind the scenes, they definitely have fields in the database for tracking potential funding sources, and we'll definitely try to, match projects up to potential grant opportunities. However, people who are filling out, if you're aware of a potential funding source, definitely feel free to put that into the funding source field, and I'll sort it all out. Survey results.
Thank you, Sarah. Any further discussion on this topic?
The only other thing I want to bring up is on April 11th at the Chester Town Office Building, we're going to be having a First Wilderness Corridor meeting, and it's also the public comment, public informational meeting on one of the projects, and that is a through hiking trail from Corinth to Tahawus as part of the First Wilderness Plan, and that's going to be presented at that meeting along with other plan updates. But that's, what time of the day is that?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock at the Chester Town Office Building.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer. Supervisor Leggett, did you?
If I may, and this is the trail
Corinth to Hawes, which is pretty incredible when you think about it,
Yeah.
what it serves.
It's modeled after the Northville Placid Trail. And what it does is it puts a 10 or 12 mile hiking limit or segment at ends at each of the hamlets. So it's looked as an economic development activity because people can hike hamlet to hamlet. And it's also part of the hut-to-hut, hamlets to huts venture that's occurring up north in Saranac.
Thank you. Supervisor Brammer.
82.
How much of this trail is using the railroad corridor?
Right now, none.
It's completely separate. We've basically decided not to use any of the corridor for the trail. We being planning.
The Wilderness Properties Management is laying this out, and really, my understanding right now is that this is an 82-mile trail that only requires 6 miles of new trail to interconnect existing trails. So,
Because you guys know I've been working very hard on a study of a report done by
Yep.
ourselves, meaning myself and a few others through the Warren County Safe and Quality Biking Organization, to put together some sort of trying to be objective analysis on the use of the railroad corridor for a multi-use trail that would connect Corinth to Hawes. And no one ever mentioned to me that this was something that was already being developed. I mean, you gave me data on what portions, well, Chris, please tell me. Because I never knew that we were developing a trail that wouldn't use any of the corridor. The only thing I knew was that the side-by-side trail wasn't feasible because so many of the portions are steep, and I mean, I just feel like, wow, you guys, that's an amazing project, and you just whip that out there like, oh, we're having a meeting on April 11th.
No.
I would love to know more.
No, we have discussed that in concert with your meetings, and this comes from a 2015 funding award, so it's not a new project.
right, I've presented it at the committee meeting a number of times when I've talked about, annually, talked about the projects that are going on. The rail corridor offers an opportunity. Right now, there is no conservation easement that allows for a Rails with Trails program. Right now, it is by the FRA as a active railroad, by the New York State Plan as an active railroad.
Right.
You know, if that becomes available at some point in time, then sure, that can be looked at. But right now, the ground truthing of, you know, to be able to construct something, you know, you can't say, well, and, you know, someday we'd like to have it. We're looking at something that is actually can be done, and that's been the focus. It's a hiking trail only. It's not a bike trail, because when you look at the unit management plan, bicycles are not allowed in some of the wilderness areas. So therefore, you know, you can't promote it as a biking trail. You would, I think, run into the same issues with the rail that runs through some of the UMP that would not allow a bike on it, bicycle on it. So,
and not snowmobiles,
Correct.
not horses, probably.
Right.
Depends, yeah.
right. So
I just want to clarify, Chris, you sent me maps, or somebody did. Is that map, are those maps of the trail? I mean, did that already exist, the trail?
Well, we had some correspondence.
Yes,
when we first
I'm trying to
started this.
recall, yes.
So you had asked for the maps of the proposed trail, and I sent you all of the drafts that Steve and I had put together.
Yes.
So that is that trail. It
Okay.
has moved to the next phase, and so but you have all
There
of
were
the
like
drafts.
tons of sheets.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
that
That
was
was
very
actually-
difficult to
layout.
read. as
That
a-
was, the initial draft done by Steve Ovett, and he, you know, wanted it in that particular format for doing his
Okay.
ground truthing and everything, and then
I
he
guess I
finished that
assumed
up
that
and-
was using the rail corridor. I thought I saw, but, you know, I know that it zigzags off of there to get around bridges or whatever, yeah.
It's close to the rail corridor, but, yeah. it's-
I think that's huge as far as us making a determination as to whether or not we're going to sell the rail corridor, because that, in my mind, was something we shouldn't let go of if there's an opportunity to use it for a multi-use trail. And I just want to make one more point to you, Wayne. Like, I know that right now it's an active rail corridor, but that, I do not see that as, I mean, this is a policy decision that we have to make. You know, if we sell the corridor and say to the county, this has no further use because in the foreseeable future, we don't see it ever stopping to be a railroad, but in my mind, in the foreseeable future, it won't be an active rail corridor any longer. Even if we have someone operating and getting the tailings out of there now, it's not going to last forever. There's a finite amount of stuff up there, and there aren't other active businesses using the rail. We've been working on it since Kevin, where's Kevin? 2000, whenever, 1999, like years and years and years. And no one's ever been able to make a really, good go of it.
I was just going to let everybody know by the end of the month we'll have responses back on the sale or lease answers back on our RFP. I think, the current on-the-ground facts are that it's an operating rail line, whether we agree to it or not, and we have to go through this process. And, I think this trail, I know as long as I've been here, I've heard about this trail, so.
I always thought it was using the corridor. If it's not using the corridor, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because if we are talking about a policy decision to sell
I
the railroad corridor, we should know what we're using it for or what potential we might have to use. If we have no potential to use it, then fine.
Supervisor
Get rid
Leck.
of it.
Thank you. From meeting with Steve Ovett and LA Group and Wayne, the nature of this trail is a hiking trail. It's through the woods. The railroad corridor, being as wide as it is, as flat as it is, does not really make an enjoyable day-after-day hiking experience.
No.
So this one fills that gap on that. The railroad corridor could be a whole nother type of trail system.
Mr. Chairman.
Could be.
Wayne, I think it's tremendous. The idea of establishing an 80-plus mile trail that connects with the larger trail system, and identifying the 6 miles that have to be developed to allow that to happen. That's what, as you know, we're working with Lake George Land Conservancy and others now in Bolton. In terms of our trail system, because in terms of marketing and looking forward, we have an interest in not only connecting our trails, but also connecting with our neighbors and to the bigger system as well. And so I hope as we move forward that, and to allow programs like the Hut to Hut program to come through our hamlets, to come through our areas, I think is equally important. So I hope, as the kind of expertise and kind of focus that you're applying here, hopefully we can apply it elsewhere throughout our entire trail system, so that we all become, if possible, a network.
And I think that Sarah has done a great job of kind of starting that interconnection of all the trails with the recreation mapper.
Yeah.
That identifies where all the trails are. And so as more of these get developed, we'll help provide some of the interconnects. Another complementary type project that we're working on is the interconnect at Gore, and looking at all those trail systems up there and looking at interconnecting some of the loops such that it becomes a more varied hiking experience, some mountain biking. And again, that's a Department of State funded grant that we're working with North Creek on, and there's some private property that's willing to participate. So that's another avenue that would then have a connection to this longer trail, along with the Northern Forest Trail that's coming across it.
Mr. Chairman.
Just to follow on, and that's important because from the municipal level, as you know, we just built a small parking lot up by Edgecombe Pond, because what we're experiencing now with the literally thousands of people, there's no place to park. They're parking on the roads.
Tell me about it. I live right by the trailhead.
I know, so you're well aware of that. So it really relates to the other infrastructure requirements. Things like bicycle racks, for example. You hike one section perhaps, and then you bike back to your vehicle. Not everybody has all day to invest in a hike, but those kinds of, that's what we're looking at now, and I think that
Great.
Can I ask that we have a presentation on that, on the trail, showing us where it is and...
That's April 11th.
That's
There's
this April 11th thing is
yeah.
going to show us?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Maybe we'll get the auditorium ready if everybody wants to come up.
What time is it?
6 o'clock. I know we're running really late. There was a meeting a week ago Friday in the evening that the Town of Johnsburg Community Development Corporation put on broadband, broadband access, and where the state funding programs are, and Supervisor Leggett was there, Supervisor Thomas was there, because it related to the rollout of broadband in those 3 communities, or 4, there was actually 4 communities. I thought that was very well done. It was very well attended. There was 140 people there. And they will have a follow-on to that next year, but there's areas that are divided up into different providers, HughesNet, Slick, Frontier. So it was interesting to see where they are. Supposedly all that build-out is going to happen by the end of 2019, but what they're finding is there will still be some holes. How that's going to be addressed, I don't know, but they're at least looking at it. But those people have been without broadband access for a long time, and so it's good to see that area of the county is being serviced. Town of Chester is kind of on their own, but because they're with Charter and there's some issues there. But so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Great, thank you, Wayne.
Slick has done an excellent job.
Absolutely.
Of all the providers in the North Country, and they are actually, if they're nearby and it's outside their area and they're not getting results from Frontier or Hughes, Slick is making the aggressive move of helping those people out. As an example, our folks that are involved with the goat manufacturing in Nettle Meadows will be served by Slick.
Wonderful.
So they're really reaching out. Kevin Lynch has done a tremendous program outreach.
Yes, Mike.
Is it a motion to adjourn?
I've got a couple more items, believe it or not. Beth Gillis from Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning. Do you have an update, or do you have any? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your attendance.
I went to Northern Borders, but just so Warren County is considered a transitional county, which means it's 50% grant, 50% local match. Infrastructure is huge. They are required to spend 40% of the total funding on infrastructure. Infrastructure is up to $500,000 grant. All of the other categories, workforce development, tourism, that is up to $250,000. And so you can let our office know we're the designated local development district for this program. So if a community is awarded the grant, our office administers it for the regulations of the program. We work with DOS to get applications going. There's just over $3 million available for New York. They added more counties, but they didn't increase the money. So there were 6 or 7 awards last year from MDRC in New York State. So I think it's going to be a really competitive year. I do want to really emphasize the economic development component of it. I've spoken to a lot of municipalities, a lot of consultants about it. This is federal money, and they're looking for economic development. They're looking for job creation. They're looking for diversification of an economy. They're looking for eliminating hurdles to development and to entrepreneurship and that kind of thing. So just make sure that if you are putting together an application, you really understand and focus and have a very direct economic development portion.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that.
Questions, give me a call.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. I think we've kind of covered the gamut. Can we get a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Wild, second by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor?
Do it again. I gotta stay for the LDC meetings, so you guys can.
Sarah, that's your program that you developed? Or